In an era of incredible technological progress, humanity continues to rely on one of the most outdated and counterproductive tools imaginable: fire. Whether it's in warfare, land clearing, or industrial processes, we still burn things as a first resort, unleashing vast amounts of carbon into the atmosphere and intensifying climate change. This combustion addiction is not only inefficient, it's reckless, especially when cleaner and smarter alternatives exist. Our dependence on fire-driven systems, from fossil fuel engines to open burning, reflects a disturbing resistance to innovation. It's a weapon of the past being wielded in a future that demands better. In the end, clinging to fire as a core tool may be one of the dumbest moves in our otherwise brilliant human story. In a world teeming with innovation and scientific progress, it's staggering that humanity continues to lean so heavily on fire, the oldest and arguably most destructive tool in our arsenal. Fire, in all its forms, was once a marvel that enabled our ancestors to cook food, provide warmth, and scare off predators. But in the 21st century, when we have access to quantum computing, renewable energy, and space travel, our continued dependence on combustion, essentially just controlled fire, reveals a troubling contradiction in how we approach technology and survival. We use it in everything from powering our vehicles and generating electricity to clearing forests and waging war. And despite knowing the extensive damage it causes, we refuse to let it go. Fire is no longer a symbol of advancement. It's a sign that we're stuck in the past, clinging to a primitive solution that's become an existential threat. Consider the way fire dominates our transportation systems. Almost every car, truck, airplane, and ship in use today still runs on internal combustion engines that burn fossil fuels to function. This reliance is not only outdated, but also incredibly harmful. Burning gasoline and diesel releases vast amounts of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, significantly contributing to the climate crisis. We know this. The data has been clear for decades. And yet, efforts to transition to cleaner, more sustainable alternatives have been sluggish, undermined by economic interests, political inertia, and public resistance to change. We've essentially shackled our future to a system that poisons the planet with every passing mile. The situation is no better when we look at energy generation. Despite the promise and growing affordability of solar, wind, and even nuclear energy, a significant portion of global electricity still comes from burning coal and natural gas. This isn't just inefficient, it's catastrophic. Coal-fired power plants are among the largest single contributors to global carbon emissions. The irony is hard to ignore. We've developed the means to harness the power of the sun and wind, to split atoms for clean energy, and yet we're still lighting stuff on fire to keep the lights on. It's like using a torch to light your home when you have a switch for LED bulbs on the wall. The continued use of fire in energy production is not about lack of alternatives, it's about lack of will. And what about agriculture and land management? In many parts of the world, forests are still cleared by setting them ablaze, a practice known as slash and burn. It's cheap, fast, and effective in the short term, but it also releases massive amounts of carbon into the atmosphere, destroys biodiversity, and renders soil less fertile over time. Entire ecosystems vanish in minutes because it's easier to burn than to innovate. The Amazon rainforest, often called the lungs of the earth, is shrinking in part because of this primitive tactic. And every time we do it, we're not just damaging a patch of land, we're pushing the whole planet closer to ecological collapse. Fire is also a tool of war, and its use in conflict underscores how deeply ingrained it is in human thinking. From incendiary bombs to flamethrowers to the burning of villages, fire has long been employed to terrorize, destroy, and dominate. Even in modern warfare, where we have precision, guided drones and cyberweapons, fire-based destruction still plays a prominent role. It's visceral, symbolic, and terrifying, but it's also indiscriminate. It doesn't differentiate between combatants and civilians, infrastructure, and ecosystems. It reduces everything to ash. In a world supposedly striving toward more humane and targeted means of resolving conflict, The persistence of fire-based weapons is a glaring contradiction. At its core, our addiction to fire is a refusal to evolve. We've built entire systems around combustion because it's what we've always known. But that doesn't make it smart. In fact, in light of the alternatives available to us today, it's one of the dumbest choices we continue to make. We are burning our way into a hotter, more unstable, and more dangerous future. It's not just a metaphor, it's a literal truth. With every engine fired up, every forest set alight, every fossil fuel burned, we edge closer to irreversible harm. The tragedy is not that fire got us this far, the tragedy is that we don't know when to stop. It's time we recognize fire for what it really is in the modern world, a relic. A powerful, transformative, but ultimately destructive force that belongs in the past. Our species is capable of so much more. We have the knowledge, the tools, and the creativity to build a world powered by clean energy, guided by intelligence, and driven by progress. But first, we have to put down the match. Despite the clear warnings from scientists, activists, and even everyday people experiencing the effects firsthand, humanity continues to burn things as a primary solution, to move to power, to build, and even to destroy. We treat fire not as a last resort, but as the default method for getting things done. And with every act of combustion, we unleash carbon dioxide and other pollutants into the atmosphere, intensifying the already worsening climate crisis. It's not a mystery, it's a well-documented chain reaction. Burn fuel, release carbon, warm the planet. Warm the planet, destabilize weather patterns, melt glaciers, raise sea levels, and threaten food and water supplies. The science is simple, the outcomes are visible, and yet we keep going burning forests, coal, oil, trash, and even food waste, as if there's no tomorrow. Ironically, if we keep this up, there won't be. Our burning addiction doesn't just pollute the air, it poisons it. In cities around the world, millions of people breathe in toxic smoke and smog produced by vehicles, power plants, factories, and even household stoves. Children develop asthma. The elderly suffer strokes. Whole populations live under gray skies filled with particulate matter too fine to see, but damaging enough to shorten lifespans. The problem is worse in low-income areas where cleaner alternatives are often unavailable or unaffordable. People are literally dying because we won't stop burning things. We have clean energy technologies, solar panels, wind turbines, electric heat pumps, but we treat them as luxury items or futuristic options instead of standard necessities. The air around us is screaming for relief, and we answer with more fire. The irony is that we know better. We've built technologies that allow us to do almost anything: communicate across the globe in real time, grow meat in labs, land rovers on Mars. And yet, when it comes to the basic functions of modern life, transportation, heating, industrial manufacturing, we continue to use methods that haven't changed significantly since the 19th century. We dig up ancient plant and animal remains, refine them into flammable liquids or gases, and set them on fire for energy. That's the core process behind oil and gas. It's as if we're still cavemen, just with shinier tools. This reliance on combustion is like using a blowtorch to power a smartphone. It works, but it's ridiculously inefficient and harmful in the long run. What's worse, burning things to meet our needs is usually wasteful. Consider how much energy from burning gasoline in an internal combustion engine is lost as heat. Most traditional cars only convert about 20–30% of the energy stored in gasoline into actual movement. The rest is lost into the air as useless warmth. Electric vehicles, by contrast, are far more efficient, often converting over 80% of electrical energy into motion. And yet, combustion engines still dominate the roads. Why? Because we've designed our entire infrastructure, economy, and cultural habits around burning fuel. Changing it feels hard, so we cling to the comfort of the familiar, even if it's killing us. Another underappreciated consequence of burning as a way of life is its role in deforestation. In many parts of the world, forests are cleared not with careful logging, but by simply setting them on fire. This releases not only carbon, but also destroys vital carbon sinks ecosystems that naturally absorb and store CO2. The result is a double blow: more emissions from the burn itself and fewer trees to absorb what's already in the air. In some cases, these fires rage out of control, like we've seen in the Amazon, Australia, and California. These are not just natural disasters. Many are fueled by human negligence and a reliance on fire as a shortcut to land development or agricultural expansion. Our dependence on combustion is also self-reinforcing. The more we burn, the more climate change accelerates. The more climate change accelerates, the more we rely on fire-based solutions to cope. During extreme cold snaps, people turn up fossil fuel-powered heaters. During heat waves, energy grids strain under the demand for air conditioning, much of it powered by gas or coal-fired plants. In wildfires sparked by dry conditions, we burn even more acreage, releasing even more carbon. It's a vicious loop, and one we seem unable or unwilling to break. There is no longer any excuse. The tools to transition away from combustion are here. The cost of renewable energy has plummeted. Energy storage technologies are advancing. Smart grids and electrification are becoming widespread. The only thing holding us back is our mindset, the outdated belief that burning is somehow necessary, or worse, normal. It's not. It's a dangerous habit dressed up as progress. Until we stop setting things on fire just to live our lives, we will continue to scorch not just the earth beneath us, but our own future. Our addiction to combustion isn't just reckless. It's profoundly inefficient, especially when compared to the clean and intelligent alternatives already available to us. We continue to burn fossil fuels and organic material as though it's the best or only way to generate power, heat our homes, or move our vehicles. But this process, converting matter into energy by setting it on fire, wastes an incredible amount of that energy in the form of heat loss, emissions, and friction. The irony is that the smarter, cleaner, and more efficient technologies already exist and are ready to scale. Solar panels convert sunlight directly into electricity with no moving parts and no fuel. Wind turbines harvest kinetic energy from the air without combustion. Electric vehicles operate with a fraction of the energy loss compared to gas-powered cars, and yet we act like these are distant dreams or niche solutions instead of the obvious path forward. Our refusal to transition reveals not a lack of options, but a failure of imagination and leadership. The inefficiency of combustion is most glaring in transportation. Traditional internal combustion engines waste more energy than they use. For every dollar of fuel you pump into your gas tank, only a small portion goes toward actually moving the car. The rest is lost as heat, vibration, and noise. By contrast, electric motors are incredibly efficient, converting over 80% of the energy from the battery into motion. They're quieter, require less maintenance, and can be powered by renewable sources. Yet we continue to mass-produce gasoline and diesel vehicles, investing billions into an outdated system that is literally designed to waste most of the energy it consumes. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes in it, wasteful and absurd, when better alternatives are already on the shelf. The same logic applies to power generation. Fossil fuel power plants rely on burning coal or natural gas to boil water, creating steam that turns turbines to produce electricity. It's a centuries-old process that sacrifices huge amounts of fuel to friction and heat loss. In contrast, solar panels can sit silently on a rooftop, generating electricity with zero fuel, zero emissions, and zero moving parts. Wind farms can produce energy at night or on cloudy days without the need for combustion. Even geothermal and hydroelectric systems offer clean, renewable baseload power without setting anything on fire. These systems are not theoretical, they're proven, reliable, and in use around the world. So why do we keep returning to fire? The answer lies not in technical necessity, but in institutional inertia and entrenched economic interests that profit from keeping combustion alive. Beyond its inefficiency, fire is also destructive to the systems it powers. Combustion, Electric-based engines and machines wear out faster because of the extreme heat and stress they endure. They require more maintenance, break down more often, and have shorter lifespans than electric alternatives. This leads to more frequent repairs, more material waste, and higher costs over time. Electric systems, on the other hand, have fewer moving parts and run cooler, which reduces mechanical strain. In nearly every measurable way, performance, durability, maintenance, and cost over time, electrification beats combustion. And still, we hold on to the old ways like a stubborn habit we can't seem to break. There's also a massive efficiency gap in how we handle heat itself. In homes and buildings across the world, we still burn natural gas or oil to produce heat, often through outdated boilers or furnaces. This method loses energy through the chimney and surrounding systems. Heat pumps, however, work by transferring heat from one place to another. No burning required. They are significantly more efficient, capable of providing several units of heating or cooling for every unit of electricity consumed. But adoption remains slow, largely because we've built entire infrastructure systems around burning stuff to stay warm or cool. It's a tragic irony. The smarter solution is here, but the dumb one is more familiar, so we stick with it. The environmental cost of this inefficiency is staggering. Every unit of energy we waste through combustion translates into unnecessary carbon emissions and resource depletion. We mine, drill, transport, and refine fossil fuels, only to waste most of their energy potential the moment we light the match. It's a destructive cycle that pollutes our air, warms our planet, and accelerates climate change, all while achieving less than what cleaner alternatives could do with less damage and more precision. We are capable of better. We have built machines that can learn, rockets that can land themselves, and systems that can store sunlight. But we continue to use fire, a blunt, inefficient, and dirty tool, as the backbone of civilization. This isn't just a technological problem, it's a mindset problem. Fire got us started, but it can't take us forward. The smarter, cleaner, more efficient tools are already here. All we have to do is stop pretending fire is still the answer. Our dependence on fire-driven systems, whether in vehicles, factories, or power plants, shows just how deeply humanity is stuck in an outdated way of thinking. We've engineered entire societies around the assumption that burning something is the most reliable way to make things work. From coal-fired power stations to gas stoves, we keep using combustion as the default setting, even as it becomes increasingly clear that this approach is unsustainable and irrational. The modern world is powered by fire in nearly every corner, and instead of seeing it for what it is, a relic of a more primitive time, we treat it as an untouchable pillar of civilization. But fire is no longer the hero of our progress. It's a crutch we lean on, even when it's dragging us backward. It represents the past clinging to the present, and the longer we cling to it, the more we risk forfeiting the future. Fire was humanity's first great technological breakthrough, and that legacy is still embedded in our culture. We associate the glow of a flame with warmth, safety, and power. The roar of an engine or the smokestack of a factory is often interpreted as a sign of industry, of something getting done. But this romanticized image masks a harsh truth. Fire is a dirty, inefficient, and increasingly dangerous method of powering our world. In the age of digital precision, where we can program machines to respond in nanoseconds and launch satellites into orbit, it's absurd that so many of our core systems still rely on the brute force approach of lighting things on fire to create heat, which we then convert into other forms of energy. It's like carving a sculpture with a chainsaw when you have access to a laser cutter. It might get the job done, but with far more damage and far less finesse. Fire's dominance is especially visible in how we power our homes and cities. Gas boilers, oil furnaces, and coal plants all rely on combustion to produce heat and electricity. Yet this process is wildly inefficient and contributes heavily to air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. For every unit of energy created through burning, much is lost as waste heat or emitted as harmful byproducts. Alternatives like solar panels, heat pumps, and wind energy bypass this inefficiency entirely. They harness natural processes directly, without the need to destroy something to create energy. They are smarter, cleaner, and far more sustainable. And yet, fire still reigns not because it's better, but because we're too slow to let it go. Part of the reason fire remains dominant is that it's embedded in our infrastructure. Cities are designed around gas lines, fuel stations, and combustion-based transit systems. Changing that infrastructure feels daunting, expensive, and politically fraught. But maintaining it is even costlier in the long run, not just in dollars, but in environmental degradation, health problems, and lost opportunities. Clinging to combustion because it's what we've always done is the hallmark of a civilization that has stopped questioning itself. It's not that we don't have alternatives, we do. The problem is that we refuse to restructure our systems around them because the transition would require short-term disruption. We choose stability over sustainability, even if that stability is an illusion built on pollution and decay. This stubborn reliance on fire also hinders innovation. Every time we invest in a new gas pipeline, build another fossil fuel power plant, or design combustion-reliant machinery, we delay the shift to smarter systems. We tie ourselves to the old ways instead of pioneering the new. Think of all the minds and resources that could be redirected toward developing next-generation energy storage, green hydrogen, or circular manufacturing, but instead are funneled into propping up systems designed a century ago. Fire is not just holding back the environment, it's holding back human potential. The more we burn time, resources, and brain power on keeping the past alive. And worst of all, we treat combustion as inevitable, as though it's a natural law rather than a choice we make every day. We act as if burning things to get energy is just how the world works, but that's simply not true. It's how we chose to work long ago. Today, we have the chance to make a different choice, to design a future that's built not on destruction, but on harmony with the systems we live within. The fire-driven age gave us much, but its time is over. If we continue to live by the flame, we'll eventually be consumed by it. The smarter path is already visible. We just have to be brave enough to take it. The greatest irony in our combustion-driven society is that even when we face the direct consequences of setting things on fire, deadly wildfires, rising temperatures, polluted air, and ocean acidification, we still respond by lighting more fires. Year after year, we witness the effects of our burning obsession: stronger storms, prolonged droughts, food shortages, and the loss of biodiversity. And how do we respond to this unfolding crisis? Often by doubling down on the very behavior that caused it. When energy prices rise, we burn more coal. When winter gets colder due to climate disruption, we fire up gas furnaces. When extreme heat makes air conditioning essential, we increase electricity demand, often met by burning fossil fuels. It's a self-reinforcing feedback loop. Fire causes the problem, and then we use more fire to cope with it. Take wildfires, for instance. As climate change drives hotter, drier conditions across much of the globe, wildfires are becoming more frequent, intense, and difficult to control. These blazes are often sparked by human activity, sometimes deliberately for land clearing, sometimes through negligence, but they are always fueled by a warming planet and poor land management. And each time they rage, they release enormous amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, further accelerating the climate crisis. Then, to respond to the disaster, we deploy aircraft that burn jet fuel, trucks that guzzle diesel, and emergency generators powered by gasoline. It's like trying to put out a fire by pouring more gasoline on it, hoping the blaze will somehow burn itself out. Instead of stopping the cycle, we're trapped inside it, throwing more fire at fire. This absurd cycle is not limited to natural disasters. It's embedded in how we respond to economic and political pressure as well. When fossil fuel prices spike due to conflict or market manipulation, instead of investing more in renewable infrastructure, Governments often tap into emergency oil reserves, approve new drilling, or subsidize fossil fuels to keep prices down. We treat combustion as the economic engine that must keep running no matter the cost. Short-term thinking overrides long-term survival and every policy decision made in favor of energy security through fossil fuels simply ensures deeper dependence on combustion. It's a trap, not a solution. The same cycle plays out in everyday life. During record heat waves brought on in part by greenhouse gas emissions, we crank up our air conditioners. But in many places, the electricity powering those AC units comes from gas or coal-fired plants, so the hotter it gets, the more we burn. It's a feedback loop as dangerous as it is irrational. This dynamic makes clear that the crisis we're in isn't just environmental, it's structural. We've created systems that demand more combustion the worse things get. It's the equivalent of treating dehydration by drinking salt water. Not only does it not help, it actively makes the problem worse. The real tragedy is that alternatives exist. We know how to break this cycle. Solar panels don't emit carbon. Wind turbines don't produce smoke. Energy storage systems and demand response technology can create flexible, resilient grids that don't rely on combustion to keep the lights on during extreme weather. Passive housing, electric public transport, and urban planning that reduces car dependence are all practical, proven strategies. But we often ignore them because implementing real change requires effort, coordination, and vision. Fire, on the other hand, is easy. It's instant, it's powerful, but it's also a shortcut, a brute force tool we reach for when we don't want to think too hard or plan too far ahead. Psychologically, there's a comfort to fire. We see it, feel it, hear it. It gives us the illusion of control in uncertain times. When the world feels chaotic, we reach for what's familiar, and fire has always been there. It's primal. But that emotional connection is no excuse to ignore the facts. Fire may have helped us survive in the past, but today it's fueling our downfall. We cannot solve a crisis of combustion with more combustion. We cannot burn our way to balance. What we need now is the courage to stop, step back, and rethink our relationship with energy altogether. Continuing to use fire to solve the problems fire caused is not only self-defeating, it's suicidal. If we want to survive, we need to break the cycle. That means rejecting the idea that combustion is the default, that it's the only way, or even the best way. It means looking at every system, transportation, agriculture, housing, manufacturing, and asking, why are we still burning things to do this? And more importantly, how can we stop? Because until we stop feeding the fire, we'll never escape the smoke.